In today's episode, once again, we're speaking to the amazing Kristina Snyder. She is a creative force in the business world as the founder and CEO of SNYDER. She uses her creativity to represent artists, illustrators, animators, and visual artists from around the world. Prior to founding SNYDER, Kristina started two successful companies, both in the field of creativity. Her belief is that creativity is at the core of everything we do, and it connects us to something higher than that can be accessed and used for personal growth. Kristina is a former photographer and travel writer and has mentored through creative communities in New York since she arrived from her native Sweden. And in today's episode, we're speaking to Kristina about how you can parlay every opportunity into the next using creativity. Let's find out. Welcome. This is Gull, your money mindset expert. And once again, we have the beautiful, the wonderful, the charming Kristina Snyder. Welcome, Kristina.
Thank you so much, Gull. It's so great to be here.
Thank you so much for coming back. We had such a fantastic conversation with you on Friday feature that we had to have you back on Money Talkies. And Kristina, everyone's heard how amazing you are once again, but please, in your own words, share with us what it is that you do.
I am the founder and CEO of SNYDER, which is a artist representation agency, and we also do creative production in the animation category.
Fantastic. And that actually leads me on to our topic today. So we did find out that throughout your journey, as we did on the Friday feature, you've used your intuition quite a bit. So we thought we'll ask you and talk to you about how to parlay every opportunity into the next using your creativity, exactly what you've done in your life. So talk us through, first of all, can you give us a definition of the word parlay?
Parlay means, it's a betting term, and it's spelled P-A-R-L-A-Y. It's not that complicated. It's really a betting term where you take a bet and you take the winnings from that bet and you put it on the next bet. So it's really a creative way of thinking in steps, like this step leads to this step, which leads to that step, etc.
And how have you used this in your life? Talk us through that quickly again.
I have used it basically from scratch. When I showed up in New York City, I had a few things going for me. I had a boyfriend, thus a place to live. I had some experience in editorial work and photography. So I looked around for a job in that realm, which eventually led me to starting an agency representing photography, which in turn then turned into what I have today, which is SNYDER, a sort of leading force in the animation and illustration industry. So my journey has really started over here and kind of gone like this and ended up over here. And with every step, I've tried to be very brave, use my intuition, and just think about things in a creative way.
Okay, so how does one start or even try and apply this principle? So how does one parlay every opportunity into the next? What's the process? Excuse me.
I think I have three takeaways sort of for my concept of parlay, and that's simply think about what is the worst going to happen if you try. If you jump in the cold water, what is the worst that can happen? Are you going to sink? Can you swim? Most often we are afraid of failing, and that's why we stop short. Like, oh, I can never do that. So limiting thoughts, I think, should go out the window, and you should always be curious about what would happen, because what is the worst that could happen? Are you going to die? No, probably not. And so that's one thing. The other thing, which is actually on a poster that I have in my office, it says begin anyhow, and it's by this wonderful artist, Lisa Congdon, that I love. So begin anyhow. Often we think about this has to happen before I do this. And if you just have that in mind, that you just begin anyhow, and use your creativity to think like, what can I do now without having $1 million, without, you know, having an office, without all of these things that we perceive as necessary, then I think exciting things can happen. The other and the third thing is that it's never too late, especially for women, you know, that are a little bit older. I'm not 20, I'm not 30 even, but I started at a late age. You know, I started in my 50s to become successful. And I think about my father. My father was a painter, very creative, but he spent his days, you know, his day job was being a philosophy teacher. So his creative journey started when he turned 50. He started painting, and he did landscape paintings, and he was very, very accomplished by the time he passed. And so he sold his work, he exhibited. My house is everywhere is his work. And I think of him as an inspiration because he's a success story to me. He started just following his creative drive and wanted to see what happened. And then you could also say, like, he's not in museums, he's not in collections, but his work really had impact. So never too late. Those are the three things. Like, what's the worst that can happen? Begin anyway, and it's never too late.
I think those are all three valid points, and I really do love that. I do think you're never too early, you're never too late. You're at the right time to begin whatever it is that you feel at the right time, because universe is never late, universe is never early. I think the stories we tell ourselves, I'm too young or I'm too old, are just stories we tell ourselves to hold ourselves back.
Yeah, and there's one more thing I wanted to mention. I have a great woman in my life. Her name was Andrea Sampson, and she said something to me the other day that is so true. It's also about your interaction with the universe. She said, we're all lights in this universe, and sometimes we dim our lights and sometimes we shine brightly. So it's like, if you shine brightly, if you turn it on, my light is here, people will find you, opportunities will find you as well. So I really believe that, and it's such a beautiful saying.
I do agree. I think it is. I think a lot of the times we limit our own abilities, we limit our own opportunities. And there are reasons for that. We have emotional traumas which hold us back, and there's various reasons for that. So this is why when I work with people and money, I don't go on the normal affirmations, do this and this and this, goal setting and everything. So those are valid and important, but it's more to do with your emotional traumas, which makes us dim our light, which makes us not take those, next steps. But a lot of the times, generally, we need to take a step back and first of all, really decide what we want. I think when I was listening to your story on Friday Feature, the thing that came through numerous times was you had an idea or a gut feeling, I want to do this, or I want to pivot in this way, or I want to do this. And then you took action on that. Now, I remember you mentioned something in passing, the story with your incident with money that happened to you after 9/11. Can you share the story with us? What happened and how did you overcome it?
Yeah, certainly. So when 9/11 happened, my husband and I lived in Soho, which is, half a mile from the site. And so I was alone in the apartment. My husband was in our country house. I heard the first plane go over the house, and I watched it on TV. I was really scared, lonely, didn't know what to do. I grabbed my bag and I just started walking towards Penn Station, tried to get on the train to get upstate, and everything was closed. I went back to my apartment, and the next day I got out. So that really traumatized me in a severe way. I all of a sudden had this intense fear of money. I couldn't open bills. I couldn't think of anything. I couldn't open mail for the longest time, probably a good 4 or 5 years afterwards.
Wow.
As a result, it was chaos, and I got into financial, really big trouble because of it. That was later resolved. But how did I handle this? It took me years to get to a place where I could look at my bank account. For some reason, everything was about money, invoices, bills, and all of that. And at the same time, I ran a business. I had to be professional to the outside. So what I did after, I think, 4 years, I asked a friend of mine, Ryan, who still works in my company, to help me to sort through the bags and bags of statements that I had in my office, sort it through, help me organize it, see what was due, just organize my finances. So that was step one. And that actually worked out really well, because I did get out of the financial trouble. Not only that, but I also got out of the mindset of like, oh my God, I can't look at my account. So I trained myself to really like be interested in money and to take charge of it. And eventually that led to where I am today, where I'm like, I'm like wheeling and dealing and looking at, bank accounts, and I can do anything. I'm saving, I'm investing, I'm doing all of the stuff that I should have done probably 10 years ago. Or 20. So I trained myself to be on top of money and to be interested in money and to see it as not self-worth, as a number. It's just like a number. It's just a number. And that actually helped me to sort of, I don't know how to say it, but to take away the stress and the stigma about the experience that I've been through in 9/11. It was intensely shameful for me not to be able to manage our family's money in the right way. So I took pride in it in the end. And I think that's really important. As a woman, I have been an earner all my life, and to be sort of proud of the fact that I'm taking care of my family. I mean, if I was a man, I would be proud of that and say, look what I'm doing. My husband is an artist. I had skills, and I went to work to put those skills, into money. So I also have little rituals that I do now, and my wallet is always green, because green is money. I handle money to get power from it. And it's like all those sort of mystical things are also part of my journey, I believe. And the most important thing that I've gotten to, I was so afraid. And now I'm not at all afraid. I'm welcoming it, like bring it on, so that's part of my story. And I thought it would be interesting to tell you this, because this is what you do. You work with people like me, who I was 22 years ago.
Yeah, exactly. And it's everything you mentioned. It doesn't surprise me. First of all, the fact that you come from an academic background, and so academics have this inert need to shame money, to distrust money, to push money. And if your parents are academics and you've been an academic, you're going to be doing that as well. And for some reason, they associate money with corruption and dumb people and uneducated people, etc., which isn't the case. Educated people make money, uneducated people make money. It has nothing to do with education. But it's because I come from the academic background, I know exactly how that feels. So that's one thing that you have to deal with. And when you go through a severe trauma like this, now I'm glad you mentioned this, it's very difficult for people to understand how a trauma like 9/11 could impact your money. Most people would think, well, what's that going to do with money? Why are you upset with money for it?
Right.
Whereas where I come from, everything is related to money. Why? Because everything's related to your emotions, and how you do one thing is how you do another. And when you get traumatized like that, when you are fearful, what you've done is gone ahead and flipped the switch. It's no longer safe for you in this body and have safety and security around here. And the only form of safety and security that we know when we're adults, apart from, or instant like that, is through money. So if we have lost our safety and security, then we will actually mimic that in our finances, because we'll make sure that we don't have any safety and security with our money. And if we're not in that financially dire situation, we will create an environment, not looking at your bills, not asking for it, not creating that abundance in your life, not actually creating money. And actually all of those actions would actually spiral downwards, creating that insecurity around money, which you didn't have before, but you have now. Because now your money is reflecting your ideas about, like, it's not safe for me to be here. It's not safe for me to be in this body. It's not safe for me to be here right now. A lot of people do that. And I talk about this quite a lot in savings and debt, by the way.
Yeah.
Debt and savings are they're not exactly two sides of the same coin. People think they are, but they're not. Saving is where you're not allowed to have safety and security in this life. Debt is when you have some sort of shame and you mimic it in your life. So debt is more to do with humiliation and shame, and saving has to do with lack of support and safety and security. Two different energies. And we deal with both of them separately for this reason. And what you're saying to me explains to me, well, you know, I don't, how was your debt? How did your debt, how was your debt around that time as well?
You know, that's interesting because we bought a house, like a really basic house at the time in 2020. So right before 9/11, and we had nothing. We had no debt. We had, our credit scores was like 800 billion or something. And I mean, it was incredible because I didn't understand, being from Sweden, that to have a credit score, you have to have credit. I was like clueless when I came, but I built up our credit and we had a brilliant score. And so at the time, I mean, it was not even like on my mind how to handle things like that.
Okay.
So
the reason why I asked you was because you haven't mentioned debt once. So debt wasn't an issue then. Debt is associated with the shame, humiliation. That's why if you ever suffered any kind of abuse, physical, verbal, financial, sexual, or emotional abuse, you will also have, and which comes with humiliation, then debt becomes an issue for you, which is a lifelong issue. It doesn't matter if you're 50, 60, 100. I've seen it pop up every aspect of people's life until they've actually addressed their core root, which is humiliation. But safety and security for you was, and that's why the saving became an issue, and that's why having normal income became an issue. And that has to be fixed first. It doesn't mean that you don't make money. It means money comes and money goes. There's no channel for money to stay and grow in your life. And this is what you say. So it's not surprising to me that because of that trauma, it impacted your money, which is, but for most people it would be, they'd be thinking, well, how does it work? But and this is what I do all the time. I deal with traumas which are relevant to your life and that are impacting money. So most people have all the talent, all the intelligence, all the skills, all the tools they need to make $1 million a month. If they're not making it, it's because of either they don't have the need or the belief, but that is also related to the fact that they have these traumas, and we sort of work with them. And this is why.
Oh yeah. And what you say about, you know, academics is certainly true. Remember, I'm Swedish as well. So in Sweden, you don't talk about money. You can't really like discuss it. Maybe that was liberating to me also coming to America, because here New York is the capital of money in my point of view. And it was like, oh, great. So this is not forbidden anymore. It's not verboten to be interested in money. So, but you see how it's duality. It's like the trauma of 9/11 that pushed me into this, and then I pulled myself out, and now I'm here. And now money doesn't define me. I'm not wealthy by any means, but if I were to tell myself 30 years ago when I came to New York, that one day you will own a house and you will have this, you will have a company, you will have 6 people in your company, that would have been like, and I actually remember my first job, I worked for a French woman who had a photo agency. We talked about cameras, talked about a Leica, which at the time was very expensive, and all the pros used Leicas. And I said something to effect at a lunch table, well, I'll never own one anyway, because I'll never afford it. And she looked at me and said, that is so stupid. How do you know? How can you have such limited beliefs? And I was, of course, taken aback, but very good observation. So limiting thoughts around money, it's something that I really try actively to work against now. Like I really try to define it and kind of diffuse it. And I wish I would have met you 22 years ago, Gull. That would have been amazing.
Yes, it would have been.
You probably weren't even born.
No,
so.
I wish I wasn't born 22 years ago. I was at uni at that time, so I was definitely born and alive and kicking. But yes, but I wasn't doing this kind of work then. But I had to go through my life journey to become aware of the traumas that that I could overcome in my life, that I'm now able to help in my clients' lives. I think this is everyone's life is a journey that teaches you the things and skills and gives you the skills required to live your life's purpose. And this is why, even though coaching for me and this podcast,
Yeah.
series, everything else, if they're passion projects, because my main business is actually in trading and property. Those are the two businesses that I really focus on, because that's to create generational wealth. But my coaching is what gives me the passion. And I think that's something else we should do. We should add into this. If you're passionate about what you do, you will find inspirational tweaks here and there, or nuggets here and there, or your higher self, your intuition will push you in certain directions. And I'm going to mention here that there's something that happened recently. So as we're talking during this podcast, I'm actually coming out of COVID, and it's really knocked me out for 6, and my energy has just literally collapsed. And I've done a few hours today, and I'm already feeling tired. However, when I was doing my regular session with my clients on the Sunday, I've tested for COVID. I've tested COVID on Monday, so that's when I realized I actually did have COVID. I had developed the symptoms on Friday. By Sunday, I was knocked out for 6. I was just in the sofa. I couldn't keep awake. I kept falling asleep. And then I had my normal weekly mastermind session at 8 p.m. I got up half an hour before, had a cup of tea, and sat down. And I promise you, the 2 hours that we did the session, sometimes we were not about an hour and a half, coming close to 2 hours. I was on top of my game. I don't know what questions they were asked and how beautifully answered. And that's probably delivered one of the best Q&A sessions, because these are conversations we can have depending on people's questions. And then as soon as that ended, I'm back to being half dead on the sofa again. So when you're passionate about something, as you are with your photography and then your other businesses, something inside of you takes over, even when you are not physically there, and allows you to create that beautiful business or that service that you provide to your clients. I don't see my coaching as a business. I see it as a way for me to serve people.
Yeah.
And so this is where, divine energy comes and takes over. Business, I see the other ones. They're the ones that give me headache. They're the ones that I'm like, oh my God. And at times, there was a time a few weeks ago, my property business had given me so much headache with the tenants and other things and builders and whatnot. I promise you, I was, I would collapse, come back when I would have my sessions with my clients, I would pick up, and my coaching kept me going. So sometimes you need to do something which makes you happy, don't necessarily makes you that much money. My coaching it could make me that much money, but I don't want it to be focused for me, or to be just about making money. I don't want to be making $1 million a month from my coaching yet and have that as the sole focus. I'd rather do this where I'm happy and in doing it because I love it, not for the money's sake, because money I know is
I understand. Yeah. Do you mind if I ask you a question? Because that experience that you described with the not feeling great but still sort of coming on, do you ever feel like you're connected to a higher power when you get into that mode?
Always.
Yeah.
Always. So when I do my energy clearings, I always attribute this to the energy clearings to divine energy. I see myself as a medium. So my energy acts as a catalyst. And when people come into my container and we do these really powerful energy clearings, I did one recently, basically. I still have COVID on this Sunday gone.
Yeah.
I still had it. So it was I think day 9, but I was still knocked out for 6. I was still taking over. So it was still, still not my fully self. And when I did the energy clearing again, I thought I wouldn't be able to speak as much because my throat was, really tired and so forth. Yet something came over me, and I did one of the most powerful energy clearings. But then it wasn't me; it was divine energy. It was my connection with divine energy and allowing universal energy to work through my body, and allow that for people to, experience the energy clearings. And that's how it works. This is why I think when people connect to their higher selves and they really get in tune with their life purpose and what they're passionate about, that's when universal energy is able to work through you. I don't feel that I'm doing this on my own. I don't think I have the capacity. I'm too smaller and too insignificant as an entity. It's universal energy which comes through me and makes my energy expanded and able to help those around me. It keeps me humble and it keeps me confident. I know that I'm not alone. Universal energy is working through me, so I know I can deliver the results. At the same time, there's no bragging like I'm the best because I'm the XYZ, because I know it's not me. It's someone else. It's divine energy working through me.
Yeah. And I struggle how to describe this when I get ideas. I also feel that my creativity and my direction, when talking to people, sometimes at our team meetings, or I'm talking to my coach, or something, it's sort of like a download from somewhere else. And
Exactly.
I think of the creativity, how to access it. And parlay is part of that too, like the
Mm.
parlay concept of like impulses, ideas. I think it has to do with your openness, maybe your spirituality, but it sounds a little too muddled to me. I often get this feeling when I walk, when my legs are going like this. So I think there's a mind body spiritual connection that I
It,
haven't
it,
defined yet.
it
Yeah.
is, but it's not dependent on you walking. It's not dependent on you sitting at your chair, your desk. It's dependent on how open and receptive you are at any given moment in time. What happens is, a lot of people get inspiration when they're doing mundane tasks like ironing and washing the dishes or going in the shower. Reason why? Because our logical mind is always interfering in our receptivity. Okay, how does that work? And how can that work? And how can this work?
Right.
It's when our conscious mind drops off and goes, oh, this is too boring. I can't be bothered to think about this now. It takes itself out of the picture. That's when we can start listening and hearing our intuition. So our intuition speaks to us all the time. It never stops. However, we only understand, or we only hear our intuition when our conscious mind is not interfering.
Quiet, right.
And it's quiet. And that usually happens, it happens to different people in different ways. For me, it's in the shower, or because I do a lot of meditations. I'm in the meditative state. Or when I'm doing, again, for me, mundane tasks like ironing kids' school uniform, if my cleaners hasn't come around or something, or tidying up after. I'm a cleaning freak, so I'll clean up after my cleaners. So I'm doing anything like that, doing bits and bobs, stuff like that. But it's when I'm not using my brain, my conscious mind, to think. So I don't get inspiration sitting at my desk. I never do that. I do tasks at my desk. I get inspirations away from my desk. It's when you are opening your mind and allowing devices energy to, all the information is there. If you imagine yourself, and for those of you watching on the YouTube can see me do this. If you're watching or listening to the podcast, I apologize. When this is available on YouTube, then do go and have a look. This is you as a person, as a human being. You have you're connected to what I call, this is your soul. Okay, so this is your human conscious mind, which communicates with your soul. Your soul is then connected to everything and everything. So it has knowledge of everything that was, is, or will be in the future. And it's all there. Now, it's trying to talk to you at all times. However, there's a mismatch because your mind goes there. It's juggling all the time. It's when it's quiet, when it's like, this is usually just before you go to sleep or just before you wake up, or when you're doing some mundane tasks like walking, or no, I would say walking is mundane, but it knocks you out. You don't have to actively be thinking about something. You can just go take a walk, or you're doing ironing or cleaning or something else, which it doesn't, your mind thinks, well, this is too boring for me, I can't be bothered. It switches off. That's when it comes into alignment with your soul.
That's such a wonderful way to explain it.
I'm so
it's
glad
really
you
great.
Thank you.
I wanted to say one thing that explains to me exactly why. In my old office on Broadway, there was a store a block away called Daffy's. It's a low chain where they just tons of stuff hanging on hangers on round racks. And when I was like, my brain is overloaded, I used to run to Daffy's and look through clothes, like hangers, and just look through something, do something with my hand. And that was my way to like do exactly what you're describing. So I was in Daffy's every other day, just like relaxing. It's really funny to think about, but yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
But it was your way to switch off the,
yes.
Normally it's there. It's just all over the place. And if you think of your brain waves, that is when your brain is in mid to high beta brain waves. When we're in high beta brain waves, we're in flight and fight mode. So that's when we're stressed. In the old caveman days, that's when the bear's after us. In today's day and age, just because the finances are going crazy, where our clients or our staff is just driving us nuts. Or something's happening where we are in flight or fight mode. So brainwaves are too high, and that's when your brain's like, there's no way you can listen to your intuition. It's only when you went into Daffy's and you quietened the mind, it was able to get inspiration from the higher self. Now, remember that your higher self has knowledge of everything that has ever been, ever will be, or, you know, it's there, because time doesn't exist as we understand. Time exists. The past, present, and future coexist all together. Universal energy has knowledge of everything that ever was, ever will be. And that information is available to your soul. That's when your soul is able to communicate to you and you understand, oh, okay. So all of a sudden you've been thinking about a problem and you can't figure it out. Go to sleep. And in the morning it's like, oh, I need to speak to Mark because Mark knows Jack and Jack can help me with this.
My Daffy's habit explained. I mean, it's like amazing.
Fantastic. Well, on that note, it's been a wonderful conversation with you, Kristina. Kristina, tell us, where can we connect with you? How can we find you?
I'm on LinkedIn, obviously, and I'm on Instagram. My handle is AKA_Kristina Snyder, and it's spelled, last name is SNYDER. And our website is wearesnyder.com, where you can see illustrators and animators and creative projects created by our fantastic roster of artists.
Wonderful. So if you are listening to us on the podcast, the links Kristina just mentioned will be in the show notes. And if you're watching us on YouTube, then down below in the description section, we'll have her links also. Check her out. She is awesome. And do connect with her on Instagram. And so today, thank you for being such an interesting guest and it's been such a fantastic conversation to have with you. Thank you so much, Kristina.
Fantastic. Thank you, Gull. It's been a pleasure completely on my side.
Thank you. And thank you for listening to me and Kristina today on Money Talkies. I will be back with another amazing guest. I'm learning from them and finding out how you and I can build a better business. Until the next time we meet, this is Gull signing off. Take care and bye for now.